Some neighbours of Housing New Zealand homes in Northland are fearing for their lives. They are living next door to tenants who are allegedly dealing drugs, being violent and threatening them. For more on the story, we're joined by their local MP, Matt King. Morena, Matt. Morena. Coming in. What is the problem?
Essentially, some small percentage of Housing New Zealand tenants are causing hell and mayhem in some streets in Northland. For the rest of the people in the street.
You say a small percentage. How many properties are you talking about?
Well, personally, my office is dealing with 8 Housing New Zealand tenants, and there's been over 40 plus complaints.
And so what are the tenants actually doing?
Antisocial behaviour, violence, vandalism, drug dealing, 24-hour parties, just you name it. Aspects of once were warriors in some streets.
That's a huge claim.
Yeah.
That is a huge claim. So what are the neighbours telling you? How are they addressing it?
Well, for a start, they are too scared to go on camera. Your reporters would have noticed there's no one's going to go on camera, so they go to the police. The police deal with what they can. They're also coming to us, but they're living in fear. They're terrorised in their own homes. And I'm talking a small percentage.
In terms of the solution, what do you think could help resolve this issue?
Well, I think Housing New Zealand should harden their policy. They've gone soft since the new coalition government came in, but they're just wanting to, I believe, a 3 strikes policy, 2 chances, the third time get evicted.
Do you think that's a bit harsh? I mean, is that the best solution?
No, I don't think so. I think that there are large numbers of law-abiding Housing New Zealand tenants. There's over 2,000 Housing New Zealand homes in Northland and 650 in the far north. By far the majority of them are living good lives, going about their business, but there are people on the waiting list that are deserving of these homes. And I think that the ones that show antisocial behaviour deserve to be evicted and get the good people in.
Obviously, the neighbours, as you say, are living in fear. What kind of impact does this have on the community as a whole?
Well, in particular, we've got a couple of streets in a couple of towns in Northland where there's one Housing New Zealand tenant and the whole street are living in fear. Some have signed sort of like a list to say that they are living in fear, and they've called the police have been involved. They just can't get a resolution. So,
have you raised your concerns with Housing New Zealand? Have you gone to them?
Yes, we've met with them, and I don't blame the local Housing New Zealand staff because they're working with the policies and tools that they're given by the government. So I don't blame them at all. But this policy that they've got is a non-eviction policy the new government's brought in. I just think in the worst of the worst cases, they need to be evicting these people.
All right, Matt King, thank you very much for coming in this morning. Now, we invited Housing New Zealand to come on the show, but they were unable to. Instead, they sent through this statement from their Chief Operating Officer, Paul Commons. He says Housing New Zealand's policy is that we aim to keep people housed and get them the appropriate services for any issues they may face. Of course, it's well understood, acknowledged and proven here in New Zealand and overseas that a stable home is the best start to addressing broader issues. However, serious antisocial behaviours that are criminal would be dealt with by relevant authorities, and those could lead to tenancies being ended and even tenants evicted, as has been previously publicly stated by Minister Twyford and HNZ Housing New Zealand's Chief Executive Andrew Mackenzie. That would be matters of absolute last resort. Housing people, of course, is best.